Oh, damn. Is there sound? Yeah, there's no sound. All right. Can you hear me now? Let me see if my thing's working now. Can you hear me now? Okay. Let me see if my thing's working now. Can you hear me now? Okay. Thing's working now. Can you hear me now? Okay, it's working. All right. Well, you know how I'm gonna start off with my theme song before I start off. So one moment, people. All right, my people, what's good? How y'all doing? And as always, those that are listening in are new to the channel. If you don't mind, hit the like button, give a comment, and always sharing. Sharing is caring, or I like to call it comment, subscribe, and like the video, like always. And I'll put it in the chat room so people that come in, they don't forget. So 1 second. All right. So let me do this right here. Hold on. I don't have my beautiful lady moderators on here, so I had to do most of the work for myself a little bit. But you know how things go, people. Not everybody's going to be, around. And I know this, and I'm cool with that. Hold on. Okay, hold on. Let's check my message. Okay. Let me turn this volume down a little bit. I don't want to be distracted. All right, perfect. So let's get to it. I'm going to run some nice little clip audios. As you know, the subject for today's stream, it is titled Steve Urkel Effect, a look back in time. Now, I came across the recap of Family Matters that was streamed back in 2017 when they were celebrating their, I believe, 28th anniversary. And as we know today, this will mark in, I think, September 10th or 13th of 2019. This will mark the 30th year when Family Matters was on the air and been on the air and was broadcast on, I think it was TGI Friday. And so this show is now approaching the 30-year mark. And it was very much a pivotal and important show, like all the shows back in the 80s. And back in the 80s, we had a wonderful plethora of shows from A Different World, from the Cosby shows, and what else? I mean, a chat room of other shows that were well known back in the 80s that shed insight and values in the family. Oh yeah, the Fresh Prince came in 89 as well. So there's a bunch of shows that show Black images in a very nice and positive light, where it leaves a message for all of us that were either Gen Xers or millennials could remember back in the 80s watching some of these shows, if we could recall. And I remember a good portion of these shows during that time. One thing, as I wait for people to come on, and I'm not gonna wait, I probably will proceed anyway, and catch playback. You gotta understand that when I go back and really evaluate Family Matters and follow the interview done with the cast, I have more appreciation on the talent our people bring to the table in regards to cinematography and television that our people participate. Nor we didn't really run these networks, but we pose a real good presence to the minds and heart of not only adults, but the young youth that were coming up during that time. And it set precedent of how you view families and what a family should run or how a family is in the Black, the reality of a family. And, there were some writers that were white that wrote most of the material of, the Black family from, y'all all aware of Good Times and all these other shows. Some of these writers were, what we call Jewish in nature that wrote most of the material. And there were some Black people that also wrote very important shows as well. From the Black man that wrote the Married with Children, it purely looked back and thanked the anchorman for this information that I didn't know was a Black man that was writing and correspond the creativity of Married with Children. And it was depicting actually a Black family, if you think about it. It don't really say it like that because white people that was the ones that portrayed the characters of Married with Children, but it paints a picture of, how a Black family usually runs because a Black male that wrote this TV series. A very successful TV series, if I might add, that ran for over a decade. I believe so. Let me just adjust my volume here. Okay. All right. So I won't be looking through the chat room much. I'll be looking time in, time out, and maybe I'll open the line after the end of this session. But let me play a few audio clips for you to get what I'm saying, to paint a picture. So listen in and enjoy.
In the beginning, ratings were good, but not great. It was a charming show. It wasn't as funny as I think I would like it to be, but it had a central charm to it, which is often the most important thing. The show was still finding its way when creators William Bickley and Michael Warren sat down to write episode 12, Laura's First Date. In the script we wrote, it was about Reggie Johnson. The father set up his daughter for a date because he was afraid that she wouldn't get asked to a dance. It's just your basic parent issue.
Laura is gonna get a date, I guarantee you.
So we just sat down in a room, Michael and I, and tried to think of, okay, what's the worst possible date that a father could end up getting for their daughter? And we just designed a character that's rumored to have eaten a mouse that liked cheese and asked for it when he came into a room. We were just trying to think of the character that the daughter would least like for her father to have set her up for a party.
Hi, Mr. Winslow. I'm Steve Urkel.
Turned out that the hideous character turned out to be the most wonderful character that we ever invented.
Is Laura ready for the dance?
I was actually on my way out of the business.
Now, before I continue this audio, I'm going to paint a picture here to show that they came up with this character, the same two men that expound on their names in the early parts of this clip I played, that they were finding a character to be somewhat hideous, but annoying in a way, and they couldn't really piece it together like that until they came across Jaleel White, and he's going to explain more on the story of the Steve Urkel, what I'd call the Steve Urkel effect.
Business. My mom has it to this day. I signed an index card that said, "I promise this is my last year, and I'm not going to waffle back and forth." And I was actually on ice with my agent. When your agent pushes you on ice, it means that they're not sending you out anymore. But my assistant and my agent's assistant sent me out for this audition because I have braces on my teeth. So I made the conscious decision. I said, go in this room and never let me meet Jaleel. And so as I was walking to the room, I remember I just started kind of walking like a geek and everything. And I was just like, hi, nice to meet you. did the voice.
I have to tell you, Mr. Winslow, when my dad said you fixed me out with
some sort of character that none of us had ever considered, and brought something to what was supposed to be a one episode small role, and we were blown away.
I've been about her since the first grade, but she always thought I was some kind of a freak. Go figure.
I always tell people, I'm like, look, I was just 12-year-old black Ed Grimley impersonation.
Oh, and to get to meet Pat Sajak, like I suppose you could do better than that. No way. Because it seems to me that he would be a pretty decent guy, I must say.
But what's so funny about that series is because I'm African American at this time, people are not thinking that my influences were white. So what I was doing was coming off completely original. And
Now, stop right there. Nobody was expecting how he's gonna come off as white. Now, mind you, this is in the late 80s. And when I think back, when most people talk about the geeky, dorky type shit, they refer back to this TV show, Family Matters. Because I can't remember right now in the last over 30 some years. And I don't remember much TV I used to watch back then of a character like this one that Jaheim White created. It was not these writers' scripts that created. He actually came in with this persona. He created the Steve Urkel. And to know say that he created out of this thing by take a bunch of characters and combine in one, made him different out of the bunch through that casting couch to bring a different element to the table. But I'm gonna continue the audio and let y'all hear for yourself.
And I think I booked the job within 24 hours.
I hope you don't mind if I stay a while. My parents told me not to come home till 10.
People would ask me about it, I said, we were a good soup. Boiling, we had all this spice before we needed that salt. When he came in and threw that salt up in there, it was a pot that nobody could just get enough of, you know what I mean? And every time the show, and we would hear people screaming and clapping and everything, we knew that first step was not our last step, and it was going on, and we were going to the moon.
Hello, y'all. I'm Steve's cousin, Murder Urkel.
At the end of that first episode, though, I went to my dressing room and I cried. And then producers came to check on me. And my dad told them that I would never do that character again.
As y'all know, and I'm gonna continue playing audio so y'all can learn something from this. And for those that's watching, please hit the like, comment, and subscribe if you're on the video and watching this video right now, to let you know that when we look back in the 80s and even during the 90s, even with Family Matters, when it started in its infant stage, and much is not really a struggling channel at first, but it needed that extra thump, that extra kick to really take whatever it was back in the first season and take it over the top. Because if you look at most average black shows during that time, if it didn't have certain ratings, it was not going to survive a second season, much less a third season back then and even till now. And there are many shows right now I could say right off the bat that I don't watch TV, but let's say I'm mostly like Hulu or one of those other things to watch these type of TV shows. And I could recap most of the shows that were primarily black families TV shows. Some of them don't even pass a third season. Hell, much of the second season, depending on the show itself. But Family Matters did. And the only reason why it survived for over, let me check how long the show been on the air. I'm on Wikipedia right now. Okay, Family Matters. Nine seasons. So from 1989 to 1998, it ended. In the month of, I think it ended in the month of July. And from what I'm seeing, that's almost a decade. And it could have probably gone a little longer, but as you listen on, you'll see why it did really, it started to fade out. So let me continue playing audio.
was dripping on my floor.
Family Matters premiered on ABC in 1989. After a slow start, the show took off when a bold, new character was introduced midway through the first season.
Did I do that?
We had no intention that the character was going to go more than the one episode. In fact, my partner Michael named the character after someone he knew. The whole name. He knew a person named Steve Urkel. We don't usually do that if it's going to be a regular character because sometimes people don't appreciate that.
The iconic Steve Urkel was played by Jaleel White. This was the 13-year-old actor's second sitcom, having already co-starred as comedian Flip Wilson's son in the short-lived Charlie and Company.
Did you hear something? I thought I heard something. It sounded like a bear talking to a monster.
Urkel is the neighbor next door who is so annoying, you have to love him. He is a quintessential nerd. Suspenders, high pants, white socks, thick bifocals. He's that guy.
Hi, Laura. I hear you can't get a date for the dance.
So the first episode, Laura actually wanted this one kid to ask her out.
You can forget about Mark. He's gonna ask Joe Beth Hensley.
And I was just this thing getting in the way.
Did I mention my dad knows Wayne Newton?
And Carl took it upon himself because he thought Laura was having a hard time getting a date to the dance, to ask me without ever asking. You asked like my father or something you called?
Something like
Yeah, and without ever having seen me.
Does your son, Steve, by any chance happen to have a date to the party tomorrow night?
So he hooked her up with the school nerd on his own volition, just trying to do the right thing. And then I remember I came through the door and I just kind of did this thing, in the doorway with his flowers.
Hi, Mr. Winslow. I'm Steve Urkel.
And again, it was a deliberate motion. Like I did this thing when I introduced myself, and Carl gives this look. It's just like, what the hell have I done? And at that point, I just became in the first episode something to hide, in the house while we get Laura on the date with the real boy, who she wants to go on.
Why don't you go in the kitchen there and wash off the roots?
Good idea, Mr. Winslow.
And I think our chemistry immediately.
Yes. Excuse me.
What have I done? Anyway, there was a frat there that night. And, everybody wasn't social media back then. Sometimes they used to have to corral people to come watch tapings of television shows that weren't hits yet. So I don't know what was in it for this particular frat, but it was like all white guys from some college in here in the Southland. And they started chanting the character's name in between the scenes that I wasn't in.
What's your name, Sugar?
Steve.
After that weekend passed, got a call from the producers, and they said they were bringing me back. And over the weekend, they made a deal with my agent for the rest of the season. And after that, it's just.
If you want to do a Steve Urkel dance, all you have to do is hitch up your band, bend your knees and stick out your pelvis. I'm telling you, baby, you're better than Elvis.
Urkel took off like a rocket in pop culture. He was actually probably like the first nerd chic. There was nothing chic about him, but there was so much merchandise built around how popular his character became.
In the 90s, you pretty much couldn't go anywhere without running into Steve Urkel in one form or another. They sold Urkelos at the grocery store. They sold Urkel talking dolls at the toy store.
Ruby, this is the Urkel doll. He's got my look, my laugh, my voice, and all. Can I do that?
So basically, you could not get away from Steve Urkel. Even if you didn't watch Family Matters in the 90s, you knew who Steve Urkel was.
Did I do that?
Urkel's catchphrase that you can't forget. Did I do that?
Did I do that?
I don't even do it justice. It was so annoying. But did I do that was huge. Everyone.
And to let everybody know, people know about certain things. for any character you create, whether it's persona or something you want to write or to display on television, you always have to create a certain catchphrase, a certain, just like a certain and something that separates the person from the artist. And one thing that's what I want everybody to take out of this video. Did I Do That was the most famous catchphrase Jaleel White's character, Steve Urkel. So anything that people will recall back to him, they're always going to reminisce that word. Did I do that? Because he created that. And that's what makes him stand out of all the other, I would say, television celebrities or actors. Let's continue.
To this day, we'll say it.
Did I do that? Just became this thing that became synonymous with being completely obvious and then saying it afterwards.
Did I do that?
Yeah, a few phrases. I remember the commercial, "I've fallen, I can't get up."
I've fallen and I can't get up.
Remember that? Yeah. We stole that.
I'm falling, I can't get up.
And listen, back then you didn't really know what going to be a catchphrase that was going to stick. Nowadays, things are so contrived. It's like, oh, we've got our catchphrase, and they'll just drill it in your head whether the audience is like it or not.
I'm wearing you down, baby.
And just like sometimes a delivery can mean more than what was actually said. So for a lot of those things, like Did I Do That, it was just,
Did I do that? And so tomorrow doxycycline to my body. It makes my DNA reconfigure in parallel genetic structures.
In a super bizarro twist, Steve created this transformation type machine that allowed him to become other people. So throughout the seasons, we saw him become Bruce Lee, Elvis.
Sorry, I got mad. I guess I was all shook.
And a bunch of other famous people, oddly. It was always sort of a bit of a side gag. But once again, I think it stretched Jaleel White to become all these different characters.
as far as the characters were concerned, it got to a point where it just got preposterous. It just got to the point where it was just like, yeah, you're going to play Albert Einstein, you're going to play Bruce Lee. It was just one after the next. And Myrtle was an interesting journey for me. Because as an actor, though, I always believed that if I believe it, they'll believe it. So I had to be a girl.
Hello, y'all. I'm Steve's cousin, Myrtle Urkel.
And I was, sometimes I even take offense a little bit, but I chill. I get it. When certain people always, they go to the place of, they always have to put a black man in a dress or whatever. It was like, nah. There are certain performances, that are just, they're just classic performances.
You did a darn job.
And so I committed to it.
Eddie, that name rolls off my tongue like honey.
And at that age, I was concerned that my friends at school were going to make fun of me. Because again, I'm that athlete first. But once I commit to something, I'm in. I'm locked in.
Ooh, Fox.
But he did it so well. He had me going like this. One character, he was in love with my daughter. The next one, he was in love with my son. I was going back and forth. But when he sat at the table, he was so convincing because one episode, I was painting his nails, and he was saying, but Harriet.
But have you ever thought that, well, maybe Eddie, or maybe you're not his type?
And like I said, it just came like this, these different characters.
No boy can resist Myrtle Urkel. Well, I'm going to take that boy like Grant took Rick.
At the end of that first episode, though, of Myrtle, I went to my dressing room and I cried. And then producers came to check on me. And Dad told me that I would never do that character again. Because I was too worried. And I knew I had done it so well. Like, damn, they definitely going to make fun of me at school for this. I mean, I'm full. I'm like, I had gone there.
What are you doing?
I'm your dream come true.
You're a nightmare. Now go home.
And ironically, when I did go to school, that's the first time I did it, no one made fun of me. Everybody just thought it was absolutely hysterical. So sometimes it's kind of interesting how we heap these societal concerns on other people that are not even experiencing that at all. Everybody in school just thought it was a great performance.
What's going on in here?
Unfortunately, not much.
So I had too much pride at that point, at that age, to go back then and say, hey, I want to play it again.
To continue chasing after you would be humiliating and unworthy of an Urkel. I, sir, a lady.
And so it took about 2 to 3 years in between. And I was just kind of bored, just random on a lunch hour. And I went into the writer's room and I said, if you guys want to do it again, good. And I remember they just cheered.
Hi, y'all.
Good shot in the arm. At that age, I was starting to get a good idea for what were going to be good sweet episodes. And I just felt like we needed a shot. And that's how Myrtle came back.
But make sure to save room for dessert.
What's for dessert?
Now, one thing I did not like, and everybody knows my stance with homosexuality nonsense. That he played a character murder, Urkel, and to find this that his views on it, he like playing a role, even to the point where he said he has no problem playing a role. Obviously, those people that the writers, producers that that are non-black, they're going to be thrilled to know that you want to play that role because they have a disdain affection to see a black male or a black boy during a time when he was a young man at the time in a dress. And I can't recall when this so-called revolution where you see black men wearing a dress an all-time high. I would say most of all this started to really kick off during the 90s. Quote me on this if I'm not right or wrong. I'm not sure if anybody in the chat room could correct me on this, but last time I checked, I see a lot of black men start wearing a dress really in the 90s, more. Besides the exceptional rule of Goodbye Uncle Tom that was produced back in the early 70s and then came out on DVD in the 90s. But the point is this, Jaleel White, as talented as he is, when he played that role and he was embarrassed and didn't really feel doing it and uncomfortable at that time, I guess his own parents during the time didn't find a problem and not shame him for that. Because I believe if shaming came to the process, he would not even play that role again. But because they didn't really go hard on him at that time, what you're seeing is like, he grew a sense of comfort playing a role of I'll say it, a bitch. Yeah. But that's something that's a little dark side of a little bit of history during that time. But understand why he played. Now, I'm not pleased, but I understand the mindset during the time why he played it. But it goes to the fact that for all young people that wants to be inspiring actors, you should never play roles or dress like women just to get somewhere in this so-called weirdo we call, Holly weirdo, or all these other, producing companies that put out TV shows or films. Never sell yourself cheap, black man. So let's continue on with the audio of this Family Matters casting reunion. So right, Albert, it is what it is.
Hi, Laura. I would have been here sooner, but my mom made me put on a towel.
Family Matters premiered in 1989, and by season 2 was a huge hit for ABC.
Hi, welcome to TGIF.
For 6 straight years, the show kicked off the network's famed TGIF lineup.
And I wasn't sure that Family Matters would be successful until the character of Steve Urkel started rolling.
Did I do that?
In the second season, the show also added a new actor to the cast. 4-year-old Brighton James stepped into the role of Aunt Rachel's young son, Richie, who'd been previously played by a baby.
I will go upstairs and put my little man to bed and change my clothes.
So as sitcoms are wont to do, baby Richie was aged up in season 2.
You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna fast forward this because I got to the Steve Urkel part to make it easy. So one moment. Okay. Now this part I'm gonna play in regards to transmissions from Urkel to Geek to, you know, rather fine, smooth, you know, I'm let the audio play for itself.
We did 215 episodes, and there's certain episodes that really just stand out for me.
I enjoyed the quilt. My favorite episode was the quilt. Laura, you didn't sew your grandmother's quilt.
That quilt has been in our family for 200 years. That quilt is priceless.
Where Laura finds this my grandmother that my mother made, and that's my favorite of all the time.
I think now is a good time to tell everybody the story quilt.
Yeah, tell us quick before Laura sells it again.
Somebody in the
Hold on.
cast,
Let me
maybe
do
more
this.
than-
Let me fast forward that. That's not the right one. Okay. Sorry about that because I was watching it for the second time, so I didn't really timers on when to stop and pause it. But here's the part where, you know, he went from Stefan Urkel.
Steve?
To feel that with him was stood out.
Steve?
Steve. Steve who?
My favorite episode would have to be Stefan Urkel for the first episode. And the only reason why is because it came such a shock to me that people were so interested in seeing me as me.
No. There's no Steve here. I'm Stefan, sweet thing.
I thought it was boring. And I remember telling our producer, David Duclan, this is boring. And he was like, people need to see you this way. That to me started, I feel like puberty started for me that night.
You are worth another job.
I do. Because basically what that character was, you know, I was over complimenting every Winslow family.
BG?
Well, big guy, of course.
I just love to compliment this guy, you know, because he do this little giggle and shimmy.
Hey, are you losing weight? Turn sideways. Uh-oh, where'd you go?
He don't even remember.
I remember. Are you even there? Are you ready?
Was I there?
Yeah, right. But I love that episode because when I hit the door, and to this day, I've never seen such complete shock and awe and screaming from people in an audience. please, party on, party on. And if it wasn't for my discipline to never break character when you got going, I really would have just stopped and been like, really?
It's you. It's really you.
Peace, baby. I would have just stopped the scene and just be like, but you don't ever break magic when it's happening. And instead, the skill you develop is to milk something.
We have some serious honeys in here. Oh, this party is the bomb.
So I really got y'all on the hook like this.
Yo, Stefan.
Yo, Eduardo, my man.
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't know that handshake.
How could you? I just made it up.
That meant a lot to me because I felt like there's some kind of bridge there for me becoming a young man.
Absolutely.
I mean, when I say I want to take that show, I want to take that show. Every scene, I nailed it to the best of my ability.
All right. And another thing to say on this. Yeah, and Albert, I do like the Bruce Lee part too. I think all of his personic characters from the robot, from the Bruce Lee to the Elvis to the Stefan. The Bruce Lee one is pretty nice. I ain't gonna lie, especially the fight scenes. But more than the fact that and the point I want people to get out of this is the talent of Jaleel White and the character. Not only is Urkel, but he is able to go beyond this character. Everybody's still gonna like Steve Urkel at the end of the day, but one thing, if I had to take out of fan members, is how he's able to mix up to keep you surprised and shocked. Even him when he created Stefan was even a shocking in itself to bring like another persona of his great talent. Very talented actor indeed, though. I think he does film producing now, but I'll double check his bio maybe next time. Let me continue. I will say this, and the reason why I'm going back in time with this to show a point, but I'm gonna tell you at the end of this reunion. Let me continue playing.
I did all my Christmas shopping in one day.
And you fit every gift in that little bag.
Oh no, these are the receipts.
Family Matters premiered in 1989 and ran for an incredible 215 episodes.
Oh my God!
But midway through the 9th season, the hit series lost its very first cast member when Jo Marie Payton decided to leave the show.
How did a guy like me ever end up with a genius like you?
I don't know. I guess I wasn't paying attention.
Including her time on Perfect Strangers, Payton had played Harriet Winslow for more than a decade.
When it was time to go, I had already put in 10.5 years I had done this character. And the way I explain it is that when you're a baker, you don't always want to bake cakes, cookies. You want to bake pies. You want to bake bread. I wanted to do something else. So when it was time for me to go, I did like my mother said, when it's time to go home, just take your toys and go home.
Instead of writing the character off, creators Bickley and Warren decided to recast the role, which went to 50-year-old Judy Ann Elder.
Hi, Harriet. How are you, Harriet?
What are we talking about here?
Oh, telling Steve about how I was going steady with Georgia when I met you.
Oh, her.
Wow, it was hard for me to, after 9 years of doing something with one person, it's like getting a divorce and then marrying somebody else. It was weird.
I mean, honestly, I can just say, like Reggie said, no disrespect to Judith who came into play. I felt like my mom was gone.
You'll always be beautiful to me.
It was hard, and I'm glad that she's here today.
In the end, Payton only missed out on 15 episodes because after 9 wildly successful seasons, Family Matters finally said goodbye in 1990 with a 2-part series finale.
It's a long-standing Urkel tradition to wait 3 months before consummating.
But Steve.
Okay, you talked me out of it.
I mean, really, honestly, the last episode was really emotional. I think for all of us.
I remember the last episode very vividly. Very vividly, actually. What I remember most about the show is I want to take the show. I mean, when I say I want to take that show, I want to take that show. It was like every scene, I nailed it to the best of my ability.
The International Space Program has chosen you to be the first student in space.
In the 2-part finale, Urkel gets a call from NASA, and they're telling him he is the first student to be invited to space due to this gravity invention that he made.
What's the matter, Houston?
Well, the AGF 5000 has drawn a satellite off course.
Where's it headed?
Right at you.
While in space, Urkel's gravity machine causes a satellite to go out of its orbit, and it actually shoots into the spaceship that Urkel and his fellow astronauts are on.
I hope this thing has airbags.
And it's looking a little scary. It's like a little bit of Apollo 13 happening in this episode.
The Explorer is spinning out of control. I'm about to blow chunks.
All right, Steve. You're going to have to stabilize the ship.
The other crew members get knocked out when trying to correct the ship, so it's up to Urkel to save the day.
Congratulations, Steve. Course correction completed.
The satellite's antenna punctured the hull. I figure we can break it off and patch it from the inside.
The crew needs to dislodge the satellite from the spaceship, but because they've all been knocked out and injured, basically, there's no one left to do it but Urkel.
You're going to have to send out the nerd.
Live like I know it.
So straps on his suit and goes outside to try to fix it.
I did it! I got the satellite! I did it!
Way to go, Steve.
He manages to free it, but in Urkel fashion, he forgets to attach his tether, and he's floating off into space with this satellite.
See what I'm thinking is? This sucks.
Things look hopeless, but you can never count Urkel out. So he ends up jerry-rigging this satellite to get its thrusters working. He basically thrusts himself back to the spaceship just in time before his oxygen runs out.
Oh my gosh, the nerd! I can't believe this! The nerd's okay!
He is welcomed home as a hero, and everyone is so happy to see him, including his future father-in-law, who hates Urkel. He always had.
I have told everybody at work about my future son-in-law.
Really?
Welcome home, son.
Thanks, Dad.
But having him back and safe and sound, he's very, very happy, and it's a big moment.
Am I gonna welcome home kiss?
One condition.
Well, what's that?
You'll never go into outer space again.
Only when we kiss, Farley. Only when we kiss.
And then I just remember at the end of the show, it was like Kelly, Darius are there, and we're about to go out for outros to say bye to the audience. And it was like, that's when I broke. That's when the tears started.
I think I experienced it a little different. Like, I already knew that I would miss seeing you guys. I knew that that my life would be different. I spent probably 42 weeks a year at Selma's house during the weekends. She was like my other mother. Jo Marie, you know what I'm saying? These people are family. And to not have that same amount of time and energy with them was difficult for a long time.
Everybody!
All right. And that was good. And there you have it, people. Family Matters, 1989 to 1998. Or I like to say 1989, and we're now in 2019. A recap, not on the whole entire show per se, but just the Steve Urkel effect and what Jaleel White brought to the table. And I'm not discrediting all the other cast members of family members. They did a very excellent job. I give them credit for the works, their efforts, and their contributions in making a TV show like this. And you know, when I reflect on a lot of shows that I used to watch, some that were good, some were bad. This is one show that when I came across my time stream looking up and I found this, and I watched it for the very first time, I had to sit back and really appreciate how during back then, and even now, how the family structure of Black America, especially us people in America, how we come a very long way. I mean, literally, if you think about it, a very long way. And for what a system has done to our people was very sadistic, but it's expected because in warfare, the whole premise is to always win by any cost. And one that is known prevalent during the time Black people, especially in the West, we call America, they hold certain values. Today, I would say the values today, as we really be honest, has really been gone. And the only future I see for people here in the West, we call America, the Negro man and Negro woman, they're going to have to start reclaim and go back to things that really did work. But other than this, if you look at Family Matters and the works of the cast, especially Jaleel White, he brought a different element to the table. He really was one that innovated and brought the stereotypical type of the dork, the nerd. And when I find that a lot of people today using these terms, the Pookie and Ray Ray and the lames and the nerds nonsense, we have to really think critically, who really created this? Because if you look at the end of that season, Steve got his girl. It took him a while, but then he got his girl. And I think, now this is me now, why he got Laura is because Laura, during her development, I remember they live in Chicago now. During her development, she always was trying to chase, the so-called good-looking dude, the ones that, are appealing look-wise. But as she get older and hold on. All right. As I see, really truly, she actually matured. Now, mind you, they don't make Laura like they used to back then, even now. I mean, think about it. So when I hear a lot of these dudes complain about they can't get the woman they want or answer, maybe I should start recapping some of these shows and really looking how these men, I know it's a fictional character, not a real character, but you have to really study how did they able to attain what they really want. Because at the end of the day, he's going to get the woman he wants if he really desires that. And like any man, not saying you should always pick the lower of the fruit, and a Black man should really accept that. Because if our women are pushed to pick the so-called quality of men, allegedly, then we should as men pick the same thing as well. Now, how are you going to attain this so-called woman of your dreams? Or what y'all dudes call the bad chick nonsense? You might have to put in some work. Put in that shit. Or, you could do the Steve Urkel method. But one thing is clear. That a lot of women back then, like the Laura back then, they don't make them like they used to. she kind of wisened up as she was approaching her 20s in the TV show. I can't speak for all the other women out here, but it's totally different now. And remember, she's Gen Xer. Not all Gen Xers fall in the same boat, but one thing I've known that she wised up and really started to look into him now. Now, maybe because she got a little thing at the end, because there's certain things that he liked about him, or something else. But at the end of the day, you know, she made, I would say, a good decision in my mind watching that, because Steve not only gonna probably make the money, but his character's gonna probably evolve in time. As you could tell, he's gonna still be a little dorky, but she accepting as is and no saying no, she like that. So, you know, like I said, if you're intelligent, you're dorky and lame, to all you fucking nerds out there and shit, there is still fucking hope. I'm telling you that right now. But I want you to learn from the only shows, but learn what they did differently, you know, and try to improve on that. Because our sisters going to still act the way they are anyway. They ain't going to change. I'm saying that right now, dudes. You know what I'm saying? But always put yourself in some sense of position. Like the Angry Man said. And everything will fall in place. So now what I will do, I am going to send these links out and see who wants to give their take on the show. And like always, you know, I hope this was helpful. I hope y'all like the stream so far. I tried to do something different today in regards to you know, what to talk about. And there's some other things I want to talk about as well, but that's going to come in time. Oh, you find it helpful, Albert? I'm glad you did, brother. I mean, I tell you people many times, I don't do this for the likes, but, you know, it is what it is. I mean, but like always, you know, putting out this content, you know, I hope people grow and learn from this. And as I send the necessary links. And what's this? Hold on a second. I just saw something. Hold on, people. Oh, okay. Oh, this is something new. Oh, cool. I wish I had some theme music to play for y'all, but I'm not gonna do that. All right. Let me see what else is out here in the world. Hold on a second. Oh, okay, I see. What's up, brothers? How y'all doing tonight?
I'm good, and you?
Yes, Raphael. Thank you for subscribing to Chaos Reign. I saw your notification.
You're welcome.
And how you doing, Q?
Man, what's happening?
I'm good. I'm good. I know y'all guys probably might have caught my stream just now. The subject for today was Steve Urkel effect and look back in time. I was reflecting back during the late '80s, even when the show aired for a total 9 seasons. But one thing that I talk about mostly was, the genius of Jaleel White in regards to the creation of the Urkel. I know the writer scripted up, but he's the one that personified and made it, brought it to life to make it famous what it is back then and now. And the illusions of, if you think back then, and I know Q, you were an adult back then. That remember that show. It's really his creation was one that really created the initiative of the nerd, quote unquote, real geeky nerd. To be honest with you, I could be wrong, but I know there was some other shows, but he's the one that really stand out the most during the '90s.
Yeah,
and either in a good or negative way. I tell people many times, and I'll say this: you can learn something even out of his creation, that he created a persona that people reflect back and look at him saying, yeah, he was geeky, but at the end of it, he was cool. You know what I'm saying? Because he had that geek and the many personalities.
Get away from that. Well, he was average.
Yeah.
The geek Steve Urkel represented a lot of young black boys before they hit puberty, so to speak. Right?
Yeah.
So that's what that was. That's what that represented. That represented that Steve Urkel was the representative of the pure, non-tainted black male who did not grow up in a necessarily in a pure inner city environment. He represented the suburban African American young teenage boy.
Okay, that's a good way of looking at it. That's a good way of looking at it.
But that's the way it was, because that's.
I mean, if you think about it, it is. I mean, if really pay attention, you're not wrong in what you're saying, especially in Chicago. So there are some suburbs in Chicago, so we don't really think on that. But you're right on that. You're right on that.
Right.
Okay.
Like, for example, when I was growing up, when I grew up in Compton, California, when we would leave Compton and we would go to other areas like Linwood or Inglewood, for example. It was a lot of the black young boys in my age group. They were doing the race car derbies and fucking the little airplane fucking shit in the field while we were playing baseball and basketball in the parks. You know what I'm saying? So it was a different mentality. We used to go to, like, when I would go, me and my friends would get on our bikes and we would ride over to the other cities because, once you get to a certain age, your parents allowed you to, and sometimes we were not supposed to be in another goddamn city. But if you live in a city, you know how it goes. It's not that far. Cities kind of interconnect. And we would take the back streets and wouldn't necessarily have to get on a lot of the major highways or go across any major highways, and we would be gone all day. We would get up on Saturdays when I was a teenager, and that was the thing to do. You and your homies would get on your bikes and, you ride to the next city to hang out with people over there. And we saw an entirely different lifestyle.
I see.
I knew about soapbox derby, and I had some friends of mine who were who lived in an upscale neighborhood. Their parents had done quite well, whatever. My parents wasn't doing bad. We were not doing bad at all, but it was a different way of life. They were doing soapbox derby races and shit. I mean, these were black kids. So that's why I kind of understood the whole storyline behind the Steve Urkel, and then when he brought Stefan out, it was, like, oh, okay, that's the transformation that happened.
That's exactly what happened.
So I was more able to understand the storyline behind the sitcom. Not that other people wasn't, but Steve Urkel represented a lot of middle class teenage black boys because they were not privy to a lot of things that were going on in the inner city. Like they didn't know about, you know, what an OZ was, or, you know, what $5 could get you as far as how much, you know, marijuana you could buy, or things of that nature.
Mm-hmm. I see. Okay. Yeah, it's a learning experience. Yes. Like I said, there's a different experience between, you know, the inner city and the suburb parts in regards to our people and their upbringings.
Oh,
And one thing is funny, they never just showed Steve's actual parents on the show to portray that he was like maybe possibly a bastard child, possibly. But really, if people analyze it, there's no need, because the real focus was him. He was the main character, you know. And the whole point of Family Matters is a cohesive family unit trying to work their problems in everyday American society. Hardworking Americans. You know?
Come on, boy.
Well,
they did. They showed his parents later on in the sitcom. His parents actually, you know, came about, but it was well into the after some episodes had went by.
I think his parents are short, isn't it?
Yeah, they showed his parents.
You know, you're right. It's hard. I think I remember they did show. I forgot what episode was it, but they did show his parents. You're right. Thanks for reminding me. But yeah.
Yeah, but you remember his parents were like well-to-do, because his dad was like some type of scientist or some bullshit, and I never knew what, you know. It never was known to what his mom did. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But I know his dad was supposedly some type of scientist or whatever, and then they showed, I think it was a couple of episodes of, you know, his parents or whatnot, and it was very short-lived, because I think the focus was on the main family within the sitcom.
Mm-hmm.
Carl and his wife and the sister and Eddie Winslow. You know, it was based around the Winslow family.
Yeah.
Urkel was just an add-on, or, you know, he was there for primarily in the beginning comic relief. But as he aged, they had to go ahead on and show a transformation, and that's what that was supposed to represent. A lot of people don't understand when we watch sitcoms like that. They don't necessarily understand the whole reasoning behind why the transformation took place, why he took the little pill or became Stefan, you know, and Steve went away. Hello, y'all there?
Yeah, we here. But yeah, he transformed in the transformation chamber, not the pill.
Okay, well, yeah, you're right. I'm sorry. I it's been, you know, so long ago.
Yeah, he wasn't actually supposed to actually be on the show at first. He was an extra, and what happened is he did one take, and they liked him so much that he became a main player on the show.
Right.
Yeah,
I got you.
But yeah. But only bad thing, I feel sorry for him. That role right there ruined his career, because it's like he, you know, everybody that sees him always sees Urkel because he played that part for so long. It's like one of those roles where after you play that part, you can't play nothing else.
But you think, Judge? You think so, Judge?
Exactly.
Well, why you think that even people in Hollywood have said that? They said that every time he's been casted in other shows, like he's made a couple appearances on Law and Order, or in other shows like as a, you know how you have like a person that's on the show once. He's made a couple appearances like that, but he's never been able to get out of that role. That role really right there, it like cemented him in that, you know. The only way he would actually ever be able to be a good star again, he would have to cater to a very young audience who didn't really watch Family Matters.
Okay.
Well, he would.
Everybody, can you guys hear me?
Hold
Yeah,
on.
what's up?
We can 1 second. Can I ask this question? Okay. Since you brought that to my attention, Judge, and I never think of that because since that show ended in 1998, I don't really see you do much after that. And now that you brought this to my attention, you are definitely right. Because
he actually had to do shows. If you look it up, he's had to do shows. It's just that they've never gone any traction because the problem is they said that the people in our age group don't watch those shows because it's still something about him as Urkel. He's always been that character.
Well, that
So
was
it's
a
hard to take him
scapegoat.
serious in another role.
Well, that was a
Kind of like, think
scapegoat.
about it. Robert Downey Jr. has been Iron Man for the last 10 years.
Right,
Tell the
but
truth.
you got to understand that was a typecast, and that's what happens to a lot of
Yeah,
African American actors
Right.
and actresses. They typecast
But here's the
them
question.
to
You didn't
keep
even have
them.
it to white people too, Q. Because think about it. Could you see Robert Downey Jr. playing another part in the next?
Yeah, but the problem is Robert Downey Jr. has had other roles in other movies. A lot of times when you talk about white actors, they generally stay with what makes the money for them.
Right.
You
Some
understand?
actors, they don't. Yeah, some actors don't translate to the big screen very well.
Right.
You know,
I'm not talking about to the
unfortunately,
big
their
screen. I'm
career.
talking about in TV shows because that's the reason why he's had trouble with casting in shows.
Right,
It was actually a big. They used him as an example. It was a big thing, and actually he was on TV and he was actually talking about it himself, talking about how ever since he's played that role, it kind of he got stuck there, and it's like when he would go to he said what's so bad is I would go to audition for other parts, and he said these people still ask me to say did I do that.
Yeah, but he just don't. Yeah. There's some racism involved too, but the reality of it, right? Some of these actors just don't have what it takes to grace the big screen.
Thank you.
And that's just the bottom line. So they don't really get stuck in these roles. They just can't translate over.
Right.
Well, I can't picture.
How many roles?
Hey, Judge, can you let him finish, brother?
Yeah, I'm gonna be quiet, man, because I'm like really aggravated. I've been running into this all day, man. People just don't want to stop talking and let other people talk. So I'm just gonna be quiet, man.
Wait, dude. What? As soon as you said something, I stopped.
Nah, it ain't got nothing to do with you, man. It's just that's been happening all day, man. I don't understand, like, when people come on panels and there are other people on, why do one person think that they should talk all the time?
And who's the one talking all the time? As soon as you said something, I stopped,
It's been driving
dude.
me crazy all day.
Well, look, dude, man, you can't take it personal, man.
Go ahead and talk, bro.
You can't take it personal, man.
Yeah, but Judge, I want to hear Maximus' point on this because he brought element.
Go ahead. That's why I stopped. Go ahead.
No, Judge, Maximus. I want you to expand more about the same. But in regards to I think certain actors do well, but not all. Especially been doing sitcom for more than a decade, like Jane White. So maybe that might be a factor. But you could explain more on it because
Right. They get typecast. They get basically permanently identified as a person that's been on the sitcom, and they just don't translate to the big screen. They just don't bring nothing to the big screen. Like how many roles can you see Steve Urkel in on the big screen? How many action movies? Or how many romance movies that you can see him in? He could probably play in some of the stuff that Kevin Hart probably played in. That's just about it. You won't ever see him being a lead actor or anything like that. And if you don't have some kind of quality like that, you could pretty much forget about being on the big screen.
Well, do you notice that he hasn't played any roles on the small screen, like TV shows? That's why I could never see him in a big movie.
And another thing about these sitcoms, this is why I have a lot of respect for Bill Cosby, right? A lot of people don't realize this. A lot of those sitcoms, man, are riddled with racist stereotypes. Bill Cosby knew this, right? This is why he created the Cosby Show in a different world to combat those racist stereotypes. When you look at Family Matters, right? Notice how Steve Urkel was a genius, right? But his parents was never around to drive him or help him do better or go further in the world. You notice his parents was nowhere to be found. You don't see that with white families. Okay, and then notice also, right? When he was Urkel, he was chasing after Laura, right? She didn't want to have nothing to do with him, right? But as soon as he turned to Stefan, right? She was all over him. But check this out. What about the young girl, right, that liked Steve for who he was? You haven't paid attention to that?
Oh yeah.
Myra.
Right, right. So these are to create like different types of stereotypes, like black men are inept. We don't know what we want. Our parents abandon us even when we are at genius level. And Bill Cosby knew this. So that was one of the reasons why he created a different world and he created the Cosby Show to combat all these racist stereotypes. And if you go back and look at Moesha and 257, you will find one racist stereotype after another, especially Good Times. Especially Good Times.
Yeah, but see, with Good Times, brother, Good Time was more along the lines of a realistic family living in the inner city of, I believe it was Chicago, or was it Chicago?
I believe it's Detroit.
No. See, the what they did was a lot of trickery. They
Chicago. You're right. No, I remember
they used the backdrop. When the show would come on, that city backdrop that you see, I think that was the backdrop of Detroit. That was to throw people off track. You understand what I'm saying?
Okay, but
because I did some research on it on the
yeah.
whole show.
Yeah, but I got this right. Look at J.J. Walker, right? Right, extremely talented artist, right? How many times will you see a white boy on TV that's talented like that, and he can't get out of the situation that he's in? How far did JJ go with that talent? He stayed in the projects.
Yeah, I don't think he got far. You're right. You're right.
Check this out. His mother and father knew how talented he was, right? But you never saw them do anything, right? To try to get him out there, to try to get him exposed to the world. Nothing. But if that was a white kid, right? His parents would have had him on everything and in everybody's face. He would have made it.
But wait a minute
this is
now.
what I'm talking about.
But wait a minute now. Okay, in all fairness to the show, because I kind of grew up off of that show, Good Times. I'm old enough to remember when the show actually started and went mainstream. So with the show like Good Times, as I said a minute ago, it was an actual depiction of an inner city family and the times that they were going through in the 70s, in the early 70s and into the, to the end of the 70s. That's when the show was based upon a family that grew up in the inner city in Chicago during the 70s. So that was actually a real live depiction. What really killed that show was the infighting, was James Evans Jr., played by JJ, and James Almost. But James Evans, the father, he was like, we need to take the show in a different direction with all of this buffoonery. So the show went away from the holistic point of view about the family and focused in on JJ. And that's what caused the dissension. Wait a minute. That's what caused the dissension within the cast of the show. And that's what had James actually killed off the show, because there was, believe it or not, scripts that were written on how they actually did get above, get their heads above water and make it out of the inner city. But by then, all of the characters involved were older. So it was supposed to go on longer and show where James had got the good job and they actually moved to a better, environment, and it was supposed to go forward. But by then, JJ and James started butting heads because James almost didn't like the buffoonery and the clown shit that they were putting into the show. He even talked about it. He was like, I just got tired of them writing, a bunch of clown shit in the show. It went away from what it originally started out being. And that's what really killed the show.
Yeah, but you see, I'm not talking about them being a typical black family in the 70s or whatever. I'm looking at the underlying subliminal message. Even Bill Cosby talked about this, right? These subliminal messages of black greatness that equals failure. Okay? You look at JJ. This man had the talent of a great artist, right? But he failed. He never got out of that situation. Look at the football player, right? Who was supposed to be a rising star that married Thelma, right? As soon as he got married, what happened? He tripped over somebody and broke his leg and couldn't play ball anymore. Again, black greatness equals failure. This is a hidden subliminal message that is programmed into the minds of black kids.
Well, wait a minute. It also showed where he actually was able to get the contract and at the end move them out of the ghetto. Right at the end of the show, after the show got canceled out. So it was about black people overcoming situations. You can look at it from many different perspectives.
Okay,
The
so
show
he
was
moved
all
out of. Okay, so he got
no,
the contract, right?
remember towards the end of the show, he was like, "Hey, guess what? You know,
Right,
I
right,
got,"
right,
and
right. I got what you're saying, right? But he got the big contract, right? Okay,
Mhm.
so now we got some success, right? He moved his family out, right?
Mhm.
How long did the show last after he moved his family out?
Right, that's what I'm saying. But by then, the damage was already done because remember, okay, remember the mother, um, 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 the mother was like, the only way I'm gonna do the show from the beginning is if we are a holistic family. They wanted to not even write the father, James Evans, in the show in the beginning. She lobbied and said, "I'm not gonna do it if I gotta portray a single mother." So that was a win-win. You also have to understand that we're fighting, even in Hollywood, you're going against the greater society, which is the white
Okay,
society.
okay, but you just said what I'm trying to say. After he got the success, right? They killed him off and wanted to portray her as a single mother. This equals black failure.
Right. At the end of the day, bro, how realistic is it? How many motherfuckers do you know? You keep pointing to Bill Cosby. How many motherfuckers do you know that actually have a mother and a father, a doctor for a father and a lawyer for a mother? How many motherfuckers you know actually live that lifestyle?
It's not.
I'll wait.
It's not that how
But I'll
many.
wait. But no, no,
It's
no,
not
I'll
that.
wait.
No. That's not what the point was. What he was trying to do was combat the stereotypes.
I understand what he was
He
trying to
never
do.
said. He never said that there was a whole bunch of families living that way. What that show was about, right, is to show black people that they can be this.
And I understand exactly what you're saying once again, but the show also in many regards was not very realistic. Also, I understand what the point of the show
So you're
was.
saying
What
it's not realistic to be a
so you're
black
doing the
doctor and
same.
a black
Wait a
lawyer?
minute, brother. Wait a minute, brother. You're doing the same thing that you accused the other brother of doing.
Okay, but we're
Now,
in the back and forth now, brother.
yeah, but well, no. I don't operate in that. Anybody on this panel will tell you I don't operate like that. I speak, you listen, I pause, then you speak, I listen, you pause, then I speak again. I don't get into the back and forth talking over each other because points get missed. I'll yield. Go ahead, make your point.
Okay, so we were talking about the black. We were talking about the black doctor, right? So you're saying that it's unrealistic for black people to become doctors, lawyers. Is that what you're saying?
What I'm saying is, I do not know any people that I grew up with or that was around who had a mother for a lawyer and a father for a doctor as a family. I grew up very close to fucking Hollywood, very close to Los Angeles. I'm from Compton, and we had Baldwin Hills, which had a lot of successful actors, actresses, doctors, lawyers, but I didn't know anybody who had a mother for a lawyer and a father for a doctor,
Can I
or
ask you a
vice versa.
question, Q?
It didn't.
Can I ask you a question, Q?
Send it.
All right, but one thing you do have to take for an example too is in our age group, right? When we go back, because you're about my age, right? 40 something, 50, right? How frequent was it to have an even black doctor and lawyer? There were few and far between.
No, it wasn't, because the doctor that brought me into this world, Dr. Whitmore, he had his own goddamn practice in Compton.
I'm not saying that there were none.
Wait a minute. See, you asked me a question. Now never mind. Y'all go ahead. Y'all got it. Go ahead.
I just asked. I Q. You going on to a long run
go
on
ahead.
sentence.
Go ahead.
Just
Go
say
ahead.
I knew a doctor. I said there were few and far between. I never said there were none.
They're few and far in between in today's time,
What,
brother.
right?
What are you talking about?
What I'm trying to say is just the numbers were low. That's all, Q.
The purpose of these sitcoms was to promote black failure, even in the midst of black greatness. That's what the bottom line subliminal message was. And Bill Cosby knew that. That's why he created those two sitcoms. That was one of the main reasons why he created them two sitcoms, to try to combat that. And that's one of the reasons why James Earl Jones refused to be in many of them sitcoms, because he also knew the underlying messages that they were trying to get out there. Those sitcoms were psychologically destructive to the black community.
I'm not in disagreement with you, but are you familiar with any of Dr. William Bill Cosby's earlier works?
Yes.
What are you familiar with?
Fat Albert, the earlier movies like damn, I can't get the names right.
Uptown. How about Uptown? How about Uptown Saturday Night?
Yeah, Uptown Saturday Night.
Wait a minute. Hold on. Stop right there. What about all the racial epithets, and what about all the racial fucking shit and all the shit about black men being gangsters and fucking dope dealers and fucking gamblers and all that shit? What about that? What about all of those negative fucking stereotypes that he had in those movies with him and Sidney Poitier? What about in Uptown Saturday Night? Then he had Let's Do It Again, which was the second part to that. What about that? That Bill Cosby himself fucking played in, starred in, and was the fucking underwriter and in some instances the producers of these films. What about that? This is the great William Bill Cosby that you're speaking of. Miss me with that bullshit about how Mr. Cosby was so goddamn trying to portray this goddamn image. Miss me with that shit.
In his early career, he had to get what he needed to do what he wanted to do later.
But see, that's an excuse. That to me, those are excuses. And I understand where you're coming from. Remember, William Bill Cosby was the first African American motherfucking male who had a major starring role in a primetime fucking TV series. Forget I Spy, which came long before that. So he was already there, brother. He already was solidified.
Well, he wasn't this. I mean, I Spy. When people even think back of his career, that was so little compared to the Cosby Show, though.
Are you fucking?
Wait a minute. I'm not going to hold his early career against him.
I'm not either. But are you really? Because I still enjoy watching his earlier works too. I think it was very good. I think that he also, it's a double-edged sword when we talk about the pros and cons and the negativities, the negative stereotypes that were portrayed by these artists in the industry. I truly believe that. So I understand that people have to go through, and you have to get a foothold, and you have to do what you got to do in order to get what you get in order to do what you want to do. I understand that above all else. I'm not holding that against him at all. I'm simply pointing out, and I'm happy for the Cosby Show in a different world. I'm happy that those shows were presented. I was a college student at the time when the Cosby Show was at its height, and when Different World came out. So I knew about college long before the fucking Different World show came out.
And Different World came out.
HBCUs.
You know, when the Different World came out, the administered to the HBCUs went up almost 600%.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised, Maximus.
Okay, can I ask you a question?
Because black kids were inspired to go to college.
Well, you know who actually had a more of a major impact than Mr. Cosby? It was goddamn the Martin show, because Martin always had the black HBCU fucking sweatshirts in his show, and he spoke about that. He made it apparent and said that I wanted to make it a point to have these to wear these shows so
Martin
that
show.
people. Martin Lawrence.
I think Cosby probably would have did more than
Wait a
Martin.
minute. Wait a
But
minute.
let me
Wait a minute.
let me
Wait a
ask you a
minute.
question,
Wait a
Q, before
minute.
you get into your long
Wait a
drawn out
minute.
answer.
I'm not gonna get into a long drawn out answer. I'm not. Never mind. Y'all go ahead, man. Y'all got it.
Yeah,
But
I
I mean,
can't
you've
go
even
with you on
wasted
the
10
Martin.
seconds right there. I just got a question for both of you. You think that sometimes you can take any show, just pick a show at random. There's always where you can sit up here and say it's a conspiracy theory or a hidden agenda in the damn show. You can look at them all like that from any point of view. What do you guys think on that?
Wait a minute, what did you say?
You can take any show, just pick a show at random, right? For a black show at random. You can look at all of them and break down and say, well, you know what? It's a subliminal message in this show is showing black people or that's against black people. You can look at every show that way.
Well, yeah, you can do that, but it depends on what the messages are. If the messages are destructive, that's problematic. If they're not, then it is what it is.
But I'm just saying though, I mean, if you really look hard enough, especially too after the fact and everything else, you can find it within every show.
I'm gonna tell you about a movie that came out a while back. Maybe you brothers may have heard of it. It's called Cornbread, Earl and Me. You guys ever seen that?
I've heard of it.
Judge?
Of course,
I said no.
Of course, I'm very familiar with Cornbread.
Okay, now, when you look at that movie today, right? The movie is absolutely stupid. It's ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Look at like Leonard Six, all the movies. A lot of movies that they don't transcend time.
Cornbread was an idiot. Okay, his mother and father were trying to beat the system. She was hiding her husband, trying to duck the white man because she was on welfare. All this other stupid shit, right? But when that movie came out, right? You couldn't tell that to black people, man, this is the greatest movie we ever seen.
It was because those at the time that movie was written, black people could identify with it. It was sort of like shedding light on a fucking hidden secret that white folks had no idea existed.
But the movie was retarded, Q.
I'm not listen, brother. I'm not talking about whether it was retarded or not. I'm talking about the fact that it was a real depiction of what was going on in the black community. Much like when NWA came out with the gangster rap and they started talking about real shit that was happening in the hood every day. Dope man. Remember that song? They were talking. They said it was. Listen, brother. And this is how I feel, and our opinions may differ. But those movies that came out, when you look at the black exploitation movies that came out, you had Dolomite, you had Shaft. Those movies were actually the real depictions of what was going on in the black community at that particular point in time. Not like today. Not like oh yeah. Dolomite was a very in certain neighborhoods, in certain areas. Maybe you were disconnected. Maybe you did not grow up around or in or see that in the environment in which you grew up in. But I could, looking back on Dolomite as I got older and really realized what it was about, I could understand that what was actually being talked about and what was actually being said. Dolomite, the guy himself was a very real person. He actually went through a lot of that shit in real life.
Okay, I can see what you're saying on that because when you look at Cornbread, Earl and Me, there was some of that going on with the welfare thing. The woman was getting the welfare checks. The husband would leave the house until the white man come by and check. Then he'd come back in the house. That was going on with some households. I did see that. Now, the part where he got shot by the cops or mistakenly got shot by the cops, I mean, if you want to put that under police brutality, maybe. I mean, that didn't really happen like that. So I'm not sure where that fits into the grand scheme of things back then. I'm not saying cops wasn't
Wait a minute, it was worse back then.
Well, no, actually, man, black people fought the cops back then.
Nah,
It wasn't a lot of that shit going on.
Okay. So here again,
it was worse.
It was definitely worse back then.
Here again. I like I say, we all come from different experiences in different parts of the United States and what have you. But I will tell you for a fact, growing up in South Central California, there were many a fucking days walking home from school when a lot of black boys would get stopped, put face down. They was doing that shit back in the fucking 80s.
Right.
And they would take your ass and beat the fuck out of you and drop you off in another gang's neighborhood. It was
they
real
were
bad.
doing that. Yeah.
I mean, think about it, Maximus. It wasn't like the racism just came out 10 years.
Yeah.
Cops didn't start just beating people's ass 10 years ago. I mean, they was doing that. I mean, think about it. That was standard MO.
They've been beating motherfuckers. They've been whooping young black men's ass in the inner city. Detroit, Chicago, Los Angeles, motherfuckers.
Exactly. My family moved from West Virginia. My family moved from West Virginia because of that.
I'm gonna meet you halfway on Dolomite.
Exactly.
Okay,
so what I'm telling you is, okay, let's look at Superfly. Superfly was a reflection of what was actually going on in places like Harlem, Brooklyn, the Bronx at the time. It was loosely based on drug dealers in that era,
And pimps. Yep.
Yes.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
That's right.
Exactly.
They had the pimp ball where I used to live at on Fulton. They used to have a pimp ball around the corner at a place called Nostalgia's.
Well, when we look at these movies, we have to understand, we have to examine them in the proper context. I knew of a motherfucker who was like Sanford and Son. I knew of a father and son. He was an older gentleman, lived in my neighborhood. He ran a fucking salvage yard in his fucking yard at his house.
Mm-hmm.
That was his business.
Wow.
He and his son. Sanford and Son was filmed in El Segundo. El Segundo and Compton are neighboring cities.
Yeah,
I know where the concept and the idea came from. Red Fox actually, before he passed away, right at the end, after Sanford and Son, no, it was the Sanford Arms, when he went and did that one with the fat white dude, after Lamont had left, and he opened up the Sanford Arms. You remember that sitcom that Red Fox had?
When he died on the set on?
No, not that. Yeah, that was. It was after Sanford and Son. He had
after he started another show, and they filmed like 3 episodes, and he died or something.
Well, it was more than 3 episodes. I think it was like a season or 2.
No, they didn't even know. He was working on another show. They had like 3 episodes. He died like then because they said he started having problems. They felt that later that morning he was having problems.
No, that was on a movie set. That was on a movie set because remember he had did Harlem Nights after that. The Sanford.
I know he had started another TV show for regular TV.
Right, but the Sanford Arms show, because I got the box set to that.
Well, that wasn't Sanford Arms, and it was another. I can't remember the name of the show. It was another show.
I remember what you're talking about. I remember.
He died. Yeah, he died. Like
I don't even remember that one.
Look it up. Look it up. Red Fox's last show. Mm-hmm. Like basically, it was a show. They only filmed like 3 episodes, and I remember they showed it like right after he died. They showed the episodes that he had filmed. It never gained any traction, but I remember they showed.
Well, the Sanford Arms show came about because it was the carryover from the Sanford and Sons. Lamont had gotten married. Lamont had moved on, and I think Lamont had made a cameo appearance in one of the very first episodes of the show. But anyway, he hired the fat white comedian, and his name was Cal on the show. The fat white boy who played the same role that Lamont played. And he had the Sanford Arms. He had actually got the rooms upstairs renovated, and he bought the little hotel that they was trying to buy, and so forth and so on. But that was loosely based on real shit, on a real person.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure you can, if you dig hard enough, every show is based on something real.
Art imitates life. At that particular point in time, art was imitating life. Now life imitates art because everybody wants to be a fucking celebrity with the invention of social media and Instagram and the ability to go live. Now everybody is a fucking movie star or a TV star in their own right. So the whole role is fucked up and reversed and switched around. But back then, art was imitating life. All of these TV shows, the black nurse, Donna, the Karen, the bitch, the real pretty old, I think she passed away, Donna Karen, when she played the single nurse mother, the first black female that was on TV, and she had a son, and she was a nurse, and all this shit. That was life imitating, art imitating life, because that was happening for real.
What would you say about the Mac?
The Mac is the same. It's the same scenario. I know of real motherfuckers who were like the Mac in the hood. Everybody that grew up in the inner city know of some dude that was just that guy in the neighborhood. He was the coolest nigga, had the baddest cars, had the baddest bitches. He was the Mac. Didn't necessarily make an honest living, but he was what they call the Mac. He always had a gang of pretty women around him. He always wore the nicest shit in the hood, and nobody ever knew what the fuck job he ever had because he was the Mac, so to speak.
Yeah, man, they had some custom-made Cadillacs, man, with the rag tops and all that shit.
So, to give credence to, and I commend Mr. Cosby for everything that he did. I do. I don't look at this last his lineage as being destroyed or whatever the case may be. I don't look at it like that because he meant too much to Black America as far as his work, his body of works. When you look back at his entire body of works, you have to give him credit.
But if you really look back at it, man, that's what really fucked our community up. Pimps,
and that's what I'm,
pimps, pookies, and Ray Rays
that I have. That's the indifference that I have. It's okay to have had those types of shows to say, look, this is in my vision, the Wakanda of its day at that time, because that's what the Cosby Show was. The Cosby Show was a TV series of a Wakanda. They tried to put every average problems in there, like the son Theo who had dyslexia and the daughter who was a failure at college, and she got married a dude that was a single father and all this shit, who was in the Navy and all. They did a good job to portray upper middle class up into the wealthy elite, if you will. He did a good job with that, but I think it was a little too much at that particular point in time. Had he been like maybe had she been like a nurse and he been like a principal or something, that at the time would have been more realistic, because I knew families like that from my own personal lifestyle. I knew Black families that where the mother was a teacher and the father was a principal, for example.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but
so that was more realistic.
Why settle for that when you can dream bigger and be better?
I don't see anything wrong with them going above and beyond on that.
Ain't nothing. Again, don't misconstrue what I'm saying.
I didn't misconstrue.
I didn't say you did. I'm simply
then
making
why
a
are you
statement.
answering a question like I did?
No. Oh my God.
All right, man.
Let me ask you brothers this, right? You talk about these pimps like the Mac and all that. Q just talk about seeing guys like that in the neighborhood. I also seen guys like that in my neighborhood, right? But do you think that they fucked up our fucking community, man?
What do you mean? Elaborate.
Think about what you just said, right? How many young boys looked up to these pimps for inspiration or idolized them?
They probably
and then took on their characteristics and traits.
Yeah, Q, you got a lot of background noise. It's I'm pretty sure a lot of people did, because think about it, they didn't have fathers around, so basically, you did a lot of shit on peer pressure. Like if you look at our generation now, a lot of shit that they do is based on peer pressure, and it's not always from their kids around them. It's from social media, because that's the big hype now.
Yeah, but you see, you got cats, right, they glorifying this shit, right? Talking about, oh, well, these are hustlers, these are pimps. But as a father, I wouldn't want to pimp nowhere near my daughter.
Well, think about it. I wouldn't want Nicki Minaj singing a song. I wouldn't want my daughter singing a Beyonce or a Nicki Minaj song. But that's the thing right now. And I mean, I definitely agree it's bad. But I mean, but people watch and imitate that crap. And think about it. If the people that are doing this cool stuff are the ones that are getting girls, the boys are gonna do what's cool to get girls. There's gonna be some boys who don't stray, they're straight from the norm and might still get their books and do what they need to be do, but it does bleed over,
Yeah.
Exactly. But I think it also has something to do with parenting as well. Like
You know what I've never
teaching.
seen?
Go ahead, we listen.
Yeah. Oh, Q must. Yeah, because I was waiting for somebody to be finished so I could jump in.
I thought that was Maximus. You said, go ahead. You know what you never seen? What?
Yeah, Judge. You talked about. Basically, it sounds like an excuse to me, but I'm not.
Elaborate.
That yeah, because you're saying that basically that's what it is in the community, and the boys do this and the boys do that. But you know what I've never seen?
What's that?
I've never seen a pimp or a hustler in a white neighborhood.
Oh, well, one, they don't allow it. They won't allow it, right?
Wait a minute. Now we're getting somewhere. They won't allow it.
Yeah.
So why is it that we have an abundance of them in our neighborhood?
Because we're in a matriarchy. Pimps are valued.
No, brother. I'm not going to do that, man. What about us not allowing it in our neighborhood?
Yeah, so explain. So why don't you explain to me what are because I just answered the question, but if we want to take the long way, we can take the long way.
Yeah, well,
what is the value that a pimp has in the black? Well, clearly they have something because they're there. White people don't, because you don't see really a white. Here's the thing: we could say that white people don't allow it in their neighborhood, but there's a white drug dealer. It's just in a different form in the white community. Exactly. So we got to ask ourselves, why is there no white version of a pimp in any form? Because you don't even see that in redneck society really like that. The closest thing you would get to it is like a strip club. Like if you're in a rural area, a suburban area, the strip club where or something like that. But even that is not like known for that's what they do, and there's a whole bunch of dudes that go there. So the question would be, what is it in our community that romanticizes it? And I'll tell you why. What it is the pimp is the representation of kind of like the quote unquote professional Mac. Because I've listened to you all describe them. But the thing about it is we're talking about what things are and are not or shouldn't be when we need to talk about what they are in order to say, okay, this is what it is. If we believe it shouldn't be, what needs to be done in order to make it so that it's not so. And then that's where
and that's we already know what they are.
Because even the way you all described a Mac, like that's not like I'm from Chicago. That's not what a Mac is. You all like basically took a lot of different things and then put it in one word that's called a Mac. You all pretty much described like a drug dealer and called it a Mac. At least in Chicago, that's a Mac is only somebody that is pretty much a hyper select dude. It is a combination of a dude that's already pre-qualified and a dude that actually has an abundance of game. So not only do they know how to hack women, they also know how to they also are automatically pre-qualified. That type of person was generally associated with a street dude, but that dude doesn't necessarily have to be a drug dealer. That could be somebody that's like a club owner or a baller or something like that. That was more like a skill set, and we pretty much associated. Now I get why you all did it. You all were not wrong, because the main thing that people are looking at, these boys are looking at, which was the most important thing, was the girl aspect. So they're seeing easy money, aka drugs, plus that's what the women are gravitating to. And now the women have been intergenerationally imprinted to associate drug dealing, and this is thanks to hip hop that kept that rhythm drum beat going, with value. So what I call it is our women suffer from what's called poverty lust, which they're pretty much trying to create dudes that are in a situation you can't create dudes like that because that's not a sustainable model. And then what happens is they try to once they've been ran through it, they're like the best way to look at it is they're like used cars that you know how you have a car that hasn't been off the lot, then you have a car that's certified pre-owned. They're trying to sell themselves as certified pre-owned when in actuality they are not only over 100,000 miles, they're actually salvage titles. And
Right.
then dudes are saying this is a
Okay.
salvage fucking title. And
Right.
then women are trying to sell it's not that. Anyway.
So check
Well,
me
I
out.
could care less what.
So check me out. Where you from, brother? The brother that was
I
just
was
speaking.
born in Los Angeles. I'm from Chicago, Carolina. So I've been
Okay.
around.
So I'm from South Central Los Angeles, born and raised, right? So what I know, and I'm a little. I assume I will be a little bit older than you, maybe if not a lot older than you. Mac was the total concept of a brother who was a
Man,
self-made man. He had all.
are we
He
really
had.
gonna do that, Q?
No, I'm not. I'm just telling you.
A mag. You can't separate a mag
Brothers,
without
brothers, brothers.
separating the women.
Are
A
we sitting
Mac.
up here giving a damn about the difference between a Mac, a pimp, and a damn drug dealer? Is
Well,
that
this
where
is
we at?
important. No. This is important because here's the thing. He's basically saying a Mac is a self-made man,
Who
A
and I'm
gives a
Mac.
telling
shit,
you,
Q?
you
We're
see what I'm saying
poison
though.
to
See, I
neighborhoods, though,
disagree
bro.
with that.
All
But
We're
right.
see, this is the
poison to
pro-
the neighborhood.
What I'm
but
telling
this
you.
is I get nobody's saying that's not
Come
true.
on, bro.
The
Come
reason
on.
why this is hold on, the reason why this is important is because when we have these damn conversations, whether it's on O'Shea Obsidian, you got people that's got the mindset of a Mac is a self-made man versus you got your definition, which I agree a little bit more with, which is the poison aspect. So we got somebody that's romanticizing a Mac and then somebody that's saying it's detrimental. We are using the same term but have two completely
Okay,
definitions.
brother, I hear you. I'm just telling you, everybody from different parts of the country have had these type of individuals in their neighborhood, and they all have a different ideology of what the baseline of that type of person would
Not
be.
really. A Mac is associated with women. You
Yeah, you
can't.
see,
That's it.
A Mac is so
see,
you
this is
looking at the
why we're
what?
screwed up, man. This is the
Right.
conversations we're having. Are you serious?
We're right.
Again, you
We're
see,
getting off the
and again,
topic.
dude. What you're not see. This is what you're
Never
not
mind.
understanding.
Y'all got it.
We're
Never
getting
mind.
off the topic, man.
What again, this is I'm gonna say this and I'm gonna be done with it. The problem is with black men is black men have two totally completely different definitions for words. So we're technically communicating, but we're really it's almost like we're talking in different fucking dialects. So for you, you're saying, well, this is a pointless conversation, but the reality is this is where a lot of the weeds gets into. Because you got people that got two completely different definitions for the same fucking word. So we can never really
It's
have
sad that it's a pointless
consensus
conversation.
because you got one group that thinks one thing means one thing. You got another group that thinks it's another, which is where the ideas come from. That we could say, okay, that's an irrelevant conversation, but then this is why people get nowhere with these conversations. But anyway,
Okay.
we can table it. Yeah.
Maxima,
It's sad
I
that
got a question for you.
it's a pointed conversation. Yeah, go ahead.
Hey, okay, Maxima, I totally agree with you on that when we were saying whatever you want to call them, pimp, Mac, drug dealer, whatever. How you don't see them in the white communities.
Nope.
Because like I said, I've worked in a lot of upscale white communities where it's like we've been going there working on these houses and we realize we don't even see another black person. I mean, literally not even working at the gas station, at the bullshit job. You don't even see white people. And
Or if they
sometimes you
are,
would
they're
not
immigrant.
believe on how some of these suburbs could be. And so
And it ain't
what
just
I've
in
seen
So
was,
so
wait a minute,
it ain't
wait a
just in
minute.
white neighborhoods,
Right.
Asian neighborhoods, Mexican neighborhoods. You don't see this shit.
they got
Right.
them. They're a little bit more behind the scenes. But I will
Right.
say this.
Well,
I ask you
wait.
one.
Let me
Go ahead.
finish, Edward. Let me finish. The reason why that's why I said is this. The reason why you don't see them as prevalently in their neighborhoods is because they got areas for them. Where our neighborhoods, we have more poverty. So they have like bars that they go to. And I mean, literally, when these white people come out of bars, if this city just wanted to round up drunks and people that were high, I mean, literally, we went in Get Go and like 40 people came in there, all of them staggering. I'm like, they could pull a paddy wagon up here and just fill it, all white people, high or drunk. And it's like they don't even bother them. It's like the people in the gas station was just like, it was all cool. We sat there waiting for our food. It was just like everything was all cool. But let 30 or 40 black people come in the store at one time. They definitely call the police. We sat there for an hour. Not one cop came, not nothing. And I mean, these white people were drunk, high, staggering, knocking shit
Yeah.
over. Nothing.
Well, you know why that is because there's this thing called white privilege.
Yep, that's definitely what it is. Because and because think about it, it ain't like they were going down in the ghetto to get their drugs and come back up here.
It's also a thing that we don't own and control our own areas too, which is another thing. I would say this though, and again, this is not me blaming anybody. This is the problem when people get in it. They think I'm just trying to blame one group, but I'm trying to help people understand how this stuff is structured. Do you all believe that pimp, drug dealers, all he did, whatever the word your people want to call it? Do you think these dudes would be in a community if the women didn't want them there?
Can I ask you a question, bro?
I mean, can anybody ask that question?
Yeah, but I want to ask you one though. What makes you think we don't know anything?
I didn't say you didn't. I'm just asking this question. Why are you coming
try
and
to help
flipping it?
us see how these things are structured? What makes you think we don't know?
I said again, that's because I can tell based on what it. Here's the thing: we're talking around stuff, the way I came in this conversation was like this. We were talking about, it was being talked about as far as the media area of activity and how it's a nice thing that basically media, which is essentially propaganda, it would be nice, aka Bill Cosby setting a quote unquote vision for black people, right? And that was a nice thing. The truth is, and talk about art imitates reality. The truth of the matter is, if you don't actually take control of the things that actually the art is imitating, the reality is, it doesn't matter how much art you put in it, people are going to still default to what's in them in their initial environment. That's the truth. And we can talk about that and talk around that. Doesn't matter how old I am. I mean, it's either 1 + 1 is 2 regardless. If I could be 15 years old, and what I'm saying is still true. So I mean, again, when I'm sitting here trying to say, this is what I care about more than anything. What are the factors that men control, and then are men doing what they need to do to control those factors that we have control over? The problem in the manosphere is we're not honest about what we do control, so we lean on things that really, in my opinion, are kind of I'm not talking about this conversation actually. I'm talking about overall. We romanticize things that really don't have anything to do to real power to influence our environment, to basically influence our women, to basically get what we need done. So we focus on things that really they matter, but they're not the initial things that matter. Like, well, wouldn't it be nice if we had more programming talking about black things? Sure, but here's the thing: you got to pay for the programming you want. We could do that, but the question is, why aren't black men paying for their image in the American space? That's really the real question. Because the reason Bill Cosby had his show was, yes, because he was talented, but also because Ronald Reagan was in there too. So a lot of what Bill Cosby was doing, I'm not blaming Bill Cosby, but the reason why white people allowed Bill Cosby to get as big as he got was because he was counter programming a lot of the revolutionary mindset that was going on at that time. Why the crack era and stuff like that was going on. So his perspective was to say, well, this is what your community looks like, not the fucking crack community that pretty much paves the way for everything we're fucking dealing with now. And by the way, I'm 32, so I was born out of that era. So all the fuckery we talk about in the manosphere is born out of the 80s. There's before the 80s, there's after the 80s. That's, as far as I'm concerned, that's what it is.
Well, you young guys kill me, man.
Yeah, you.
But again, you're right. You're not addressing anything I said. You're just saying, "Well, you young guys kill me." So you telling me? I'll ask you a simple question. Are you telling me that the black community was not especially being older than me? So you should have a wider scope. The black community wasn't diametrically different from 1979 before versus 1995 after? Are you saying it's basically the same shit?
That's a woman's argument.
That's a woman's argument. That's a non-answer answer. How is that a fucking woman's argument?
Your whole argument is from a.
That's like me saying there was Jews before the Holocaust and then there was the Jewish mentality after the Holocaust.
Do you know how to stop talking?
Okay, so I see you're not gonna engage in the fucking conversation. You're just gonna go to niggified shit. Go ahead.
Do you know how to stop talking, bro?
Of course I know how to stop talking. So go ahead.
Can you do that? Yeah, your whole argument, man, it sounds like something a woman would say, man. And this is my
Okay,
problem
get
with young guys.
specific on that.
Okay, you know what, man? Talk all you want.
Hey, Maximus.
I'm
Maximus.
cool, Ki. I'm gonna chill, bro.
Huh?
I'm gonna chill, man. I'm a little aggravated today. I'm just gonna chill
But
out.
but listen. I'll say like this. I can see what he's trying to say. You know, I think too his voice comes off sounding like he has an attitude, but I've heard him talk plenty of times on other panels before. That's just how he
I've
talks.
heard a lot of the stuff that he says. I heard that from women, bro.
But I will say like that. There is some truth in that. But we have to
Some,
admit
very
some
little,
right.
very little.
It's some truth in that because look, we can watch TV all we want, but if you
There's a
step
lot of
outside
misguidance
and
in there
don't
as
see that
well.
in your backyard, it's hard to believe. So I can totally I mean, think about it. I'll say this: you see, people, have you heard how hard I have been on my son? I've had problems with CPS, all of this other shit. So you would think that my son would be one of those ones there, but no, he hangs with people who social media is their life. Social media is his life. So basically, all the internet shit, all the shit there influences him more than the shit he sees me going through when we go to work, sees the child support issues. He see me go to jail back and forth, left him alone for 10 days here alone at the house, all of that shit. He's seen that. He still continues to go down a road that's not going to be productive for him. I mean, because of you got one or two people saying don't do that. You got 100 people saying we're doing that and it's cool and ain't nothing happening to us. Who are you more
Well,
likely to believe?
well, Dre, I'm gonna say it like this, and I'm gonna be honest with you. Some people they just gotta learn the hard way, and
Yeah,
at the end of the day, that's all it boils down to.
they got to learn the hard way. But what I'm saying is this: sometimes environment controls actions.
I agree with that. I agree with that 100%. I agree with you
What do you
100% on
agree?
that.
What do you think, Maximus? Don't you think that environment can sometimes make you go to actions?
Well, yeah, especially if your environment is corrupt.
Yeah, and
Okay, you
I
see,
can understand it.
the problem is that we've allowed the environment to become poisonous and corrupt. It's like a dying tree that yields bad fruit over and over and over again.
Well, you ever notice something too? Think about it. Most of the black people's environments, every time, like I sit here and laugh. Every area that I watch as black people move in, I always notice black people never move into a brand new area that's built from the ground up from them. It's always
They're not
when black
taught
people.
because they're not taught to do better, look for better, or rise or
Right.
achieve. They're not taught that.
Okay, but think about it. Most of the time, right? But what do they see? All right, they're not taught that, and they're doing what they see. What do they see? Most of the time, like I sit here and laugh. I live here in the suburbs now. I'm watching my suburb go down. I do admit we got an influx of good mentality people moving into the area, and I mean, like we sit here and it's like, wow, man, I would never recall. Like I went to this high school, I never recall a police being at the school. You see a police car every so often over there, where you never saw this shit before. You know, like the only time you see the police is if it was like a football game and stuff like that. So you'll see them out, but it's like you start to see little things you never thought of. Like you say, hey, we could go to sleep and leave our doors open. Like the other night, I came back and come back in my room. I go get up at 4 o'clock in the morning. I forgot my front door is wide open, and I'm like, oh my gosh, where the hell I think I live? You know, because now it's just I think what happens is we always take the leftover. So of course
You know,
we're always behind the eight ball. So we're in the worst areas. So you're more likely to see the crap.
let me tell you something, right? I've been almost all the way around the world. I've been
Mhm.
with so many different races of people, right? I've sat in on groups of Japanese men, right? And
Mhm.
I speak some Japanese too, right? Their conversation, right? It's about
Oh, that's good.
building, right?
Hmm.
Building, owning, purchasing, organizing, right?
Right.
You're going to get this from most of the Asians. I've been around some Asian, some Jewish men. Okay, they pretty much talk about owning the whole world. Okay, I've been around Mexicans. I've been around Puerto Ricans. Their conversations is about opening up bodegas or opening up this eateries or whatever. Always something to achieve, right? I've been around a lot of black people. Most of the black groups I've been around, you know what they talk about?
Dumb shit. They don't talk
Paying
about
bill,
nothing.
paying bills.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep.
You don't hear shit. You don't hear nothing about, hey man, let's go do this, let's go do that, let's get our money together, man. We can go buy. Nah, man, I want to pay my bills, man. I got to get to work, man. I got to pay my bills. Go to work just to pay bills.
Just to
No
pay for.
ambition, no ambition, no nothing. Conversations. I've had 4-hour conversations with people who just want to pay bills.
Well, Lord knows, one thing I'm tired of is renting.
Yes,
I,
that too.
I'm,
Apartment,
I,
rent.
I'm, s- I'm so fed up because when you rent a house and something goes wrong, and you really need to like call the landlord and and they tell you, and you look in your lease, and they tell you, it's not our responsibility, and they put everything on you. I am so like tired of renting and all that good thing.
So why do
Um,
you think that is with the bill thing and the renting thing and not building?
Because it's the way the when the family was destroyed, the teachings were lost. The teachings were lost. See, I come from a different era where the teachings were still intact. I have my own business. I have my own everything. Okay. I don't think
nice.
about I don't my mindset is not to pay bills. I don't want to pay any bills. I want to own shit. And I'm not done. I got some more shit I got to buy up. But I
When
come
do you
from a
think?
different mindset.
When do you think the black community? What decade do you think? What do you think the main decade the black community was destroyed?
I think it started. I think it started in the late. I will wait a minute. Maybe the middle. I think they started working on it in the early '70s with different subliminal things like sitcoms, billboards, things to slowly program the mind. And I think they started to ramp it up as you got more towards the '80s.
Okay,
And
so
then
we're
when
in
you
agreement.
right, and then when you got into the '80s, what really to me was the nail in the coffin was the crack epidemic that
Exa-
blew black families out of the
exactly.
water, man.
I
Exactly.
think the seeds were planted in the 1968 laws.
Yeah.
That's when the seeds were planted. I think a
Yeah.
lot of this bullshit. This is how, the way I see it is. You got Black Wall Street, which pretty much was, as far as I'm concerned, the pinnacle of Ado's black culture at that point. Because I'm in North Carolina. They had two. They had Wilmington that was burnt down. They have Durham, which pretty much distilled down into a crack zone, a crack corridor after the fucking goddamn tobacco shit blew the fuck up. But you had the stuff in there, but the laws that actually made the incentivize certain behaviors. Because when you got the Black Wall Street shit, and again, I'm not blaming our women. I'm just talking about incentives and not incentives. Our
You know where
women
that
had to
comes from,
listen
though,
to
right,
what the
Edward?
fuck we said
Edward,
because
Edward,
if
Edward, Edward. Take a
what
breath. You know where the incentivize you know where that comes from, right? That
where
comes
does
from the
that come from?
policies. That comes from the policies that are created.
Yeah. And the policy was the levers. The policy was done on purpose in order to allow certain behaviors. I mean, you see it done
Right.
today when you look at
Right.
all this hyper liberalism. There's a
That's
reason
right.
why they wanted gay marriage and they didn't just want civil unions. Because
Right.
once gay marriage passed in the mindsets of America, now all these other fucking letters and notice the gender neutral shit that you didn't hear that shit until after gay marriage got passed. They kept
I
Absolutely.
it
know.
real
I
simple.
know that. I noticed that.
They kept it real simple. Then when gay
Well, they
marriage
tried.
passed, it went
Wait a
off to
minute.
the races.
They tried to push that in the like in the mid '70s, but it didn't. It didn't take the way they wanted it to, so they backed off and they waited. They waited, and so like you said, when they were able to get the the gay thing in full swing, that's when they went back to it. But it's been on the docket for a minute.
Yeah.
Not
Well, I
anymore.
mean, they didn't pass it via legislation, not first.
Mm-hmm.
They got around it. They actually legislated from the bench. But
thank you. Has anybody familiar read the Jaffe Recommend of 1969?
I can't say I'm familiar with that.
All right, I
Not familiar.
might have to do a stream solely to really devote on that, but that'll be next time. But continue.
Yeah, the brother's making some great points. Go ahead, Edward. Where'd he go?
No, I told him to stop for a second. Continue, Edward. Go ahead.
well, my thing is, I'm a very big believer in understanding how we got here, so we can understand how to move forward. So yeah, basically, they started this stuff in the '60s, in the civil rights, to try to dismantle any like proper integration. Because they wanted to integrate, but they wanted to integrate at the bottom. They didn't want us to integrate with our Black Wall Street stuff, because then we can have a dual economy like everybody else has. When you look at the Asians that you talked about, they have a dual economy. The
Right.
Jews, they have a fucking dual economy as well. That's what one of the main importances of Israel, because it gives them a centralized base. And then don't get me started on how they're, and I'm not even a big person of looking at Jews like other folks are, but they basically have the best of both worlds. Even Chinese, when you look at Chinatowns or you look at Koreatowns, they control their commercial real estate. That's why they call them those things. The thing about us is we had that burnt out of us, the business mindset. Because if you think about it, Black people don't like talking about sales, particularly Black men. Things that are like the building blocks of like what you need to have a business are not things that are valued. I'm talking about a collectivity of Black people. So what happens is, if you are a business owner or somebody that has a mindset of that and you're Black, if you're looking for other Black people, you tend to feel a little bit isolated. Or you tend to, I hate to say it, but this is true, you tend to find women that are more in that mindset because of how a lot of our communities have been psychologically formatted. So this is where I always come back to. Anyway, go ahead. So
yeah, the problem is this, right? I hear what you're saying, right? And it's not like we don't know what the problem is and how we got here. We know that all too well. The problem is this: we can't fix it. Two things have to happen in order for it to be fixed. Either a miracle has to happen, or we got to burn the field. There's no fixing this, bro.
I vote for burning the field. Actually, scratch that, because that's going to take too much energy. I vote for separation. You take about 40%, 30%, you maximize Black community at 40%, and then the rest of them, it is what it is. And you don't do that based on choosing who's good and who's not. You allow people to make those decisions on their own. So you put the information out. Yeah, so you put.
I agree.
I like that.
We're not going to save the whole Black community. So it's better. And here's the thing, even for folks that say, well, I can't let certain Black people go because I can't do that to my people. Think of it this way. The bigger the planet, or the bigger the focus percentage of any given point or group of people, the more those people have an ability to influence the other people. So when you look at where the majority of money is in the Black community, that is for the most part within a certain percentage of Black people, like 30 or 40% anyway. So if they ever focus their money under certain ideas and principles, then we will be able to then probably reach and influence the next generation of the rest of the people that's on some fuck shit. Because here's the thing, we don't have this is what a proper Black community looks like, and then dudes can say, well, all this bullshit about educated lame and all of that, this is a Black Silicon Valley, this is what Black men built. I'm talking about like an actual city that represents that, like with that minus the fuck shit. But and then this is what the rest of the communities look like, and then that's something that can be marketed and promoted, just like how you see certain states try to market their state and they always put out the good of the state, the real Michigan or some shit like that. We don't have that. If we build something like that first on a small scale, then we can have something that's kind of like a battering ram that we can say you can either go this way or this way. If you go this way and you fuck up, there may be a path back, but just like redemption ain't free. So you gonna have to earn your way back. You ain't gonna be able to just pass the pork chop your way back, saying I done did my time and I don't want to earn my shit from the people that did it the right way. And then that has to do with your business owner. You understand what it takes to get credit, to build those relationships. That stuff can't be done in an instant. So they'll have to do that. And yeah, we'll help them if they get to a point where they're actually saying they want to do the right shit and demonstrate that. But we don't. And Yeah, so that's what I think. But a lot of people can't let go of the motherfuckers that are on the fuck shit. They wanna that their mama or that's their cousin or that's their friend or whatever, and that's gonna be a sacrifice. But anyway,
You gotta let it go. It's like you said, separation to me would be the equivalent of burning the field. But we gotta get enough people of like minds to do that. Now we do have a few examples of some model black neighborhoods. I know in Montclair, New Jersey, if you go there, you would swear white people live there, but there's a lot of rich black people that live there. They pretty much dominate that entire neighborhood. They own everything in it. So we do have a few examples of model black neighborhoods, but it's not enough. But if we want to get out of this situation, I
Yeah.
agree. We have to separate, and it has to be enough of us that's willing to get out of this situation and go somewhere, reconvene, put our heads together, and build from where we are.
All right. All right. And on that note, I am going to conclude tonight's broadcast. I hope everybody that watched and thank you for watching. One thing I will say, comment, subscribe, and like this video, like always. To the next stream. But other than that, let the chaos reign.